Going to straight away start recording now. We're recording, Eddie. We're all ready.
Hello.
We made it finally.
We did. We did across an ocean and two busy schedules.
Yeah, no, it's been an insane 48 hours for me. I mean, I've just all sorts of things that are happening there in the US, and everyone and over across shores are sort of sitting there nail biting and wondering what's going to go on. But you know, it's just going to be really, really interesting to see how this is all going to play out. But anyway, I am so happy to have you on my show.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, well, especially with all this nonsense that's going on with this whole thing with this this boogeyman virus, and you know, the attention really is drawing to us, towards our health
Right.
and wellness, you know, and our immunity. And I think that a lot of people have paid attention in this last year, especially these last 10 months, never before. You know, they've become obsessed with their health, making sure that they're keeping well. And, you know, it's so important to know about your immunity. But there's a lot of fear porn going around. And, you know, that's one of the things that I try and stay away from this sort of train of thought and these people, because ultimately we're just suppressing our immune system, and it's this year has taught people so much to value their health and to actually start learning about the great things that are out there that can actually help you. And
Yeah.
when I came across Touchstone through my very good friend Mark, it wasn't actually through him that I'd heard about your products. It was from a few people telling me about the wonders of zeolite. And I've known about it. It's like you're telling me something I already know. You know, you have to colloidal silver, and I do, like, you know, this zeolite, and what are you telling me? But they were saying, Alpa, this stuff's brilliant, and I had no idea about the connection. So then I started using it, and it's obviously, I've used it before, so I do know that it's good. And I had a little bit of a struggle with my own health journey, so I can attest to this. And then when I read all the reviews, they've just been marvelous. So I was fascinated with your journey, and I'd just like you to sort of give us a brief introduction about where this all began, and, you know, what it is that you're, you know, doing with all these products for us all. So yeah, take it away, Eddie.
Well, I'll do that. And thank you for the the invite for that discussion. It's so I'll tell you right up front, I'm not going to walk everybody through all the years, but I'm
your whole life story. I
years.
want to hear it all. I want your whole life story from when you were 3, please.
Okay. Well, it's a long one. I'm 57, and I have to say that for me, it started 30 plus years ago, right? And I'll tell everybody right up front that with health, at least from my perspective and my opinion, I'm leery of people that talk about these overnight transformations. For me, it's been a long journey of learning, unlearning, learning, unlearning. And so I'm sort of patient with the dynamics of being human and being, you know, curious, and your priorities at different ages and things like that. But the sort of the long and the short of it is, for me, I have two sort of things kind of happening at the same time in my life. When I was in school at university, you know, like a lot of people, you've got time to sort of think about yourself as well as other things. And so I spent time working out, and I did a few sort of amateur triathlons and things of that kind. But then all of a sudden you get out into the real world, and the real world demands and things like that, and you don't have that amount of time. And so by the time I'm in my mid-20s, you know, I'm heavier than I should be. Yeah. And I'm sort of statistically headed towards risk of diabetes, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease. So I'm just kind of one of these folks that's allowing myself to get sucked into this journey of not paying attention to the quality of food I'm eating or the exercise, and sort of thinking, well, there's a prescription remedy, right? I can always use whatever prescriptions are out there for blood sugar control or whatever happens to be. But then I was fortunate to have a wake-up call. My mom, Judy, wonderful woman. I'll jump to the end of the story for everybody. She's alive and well today, but we had a real health scare with her for probably about a 2.5, 3 year period of time. And to kind of give everybody some perspective, this is the late 1980s, early 1990s. She had an undiagnosed issue where her health was failing. She was becoming frail. She's sort of catching every cough and cold and flu and whatever kind of comes that way. And at that point, my mom, as a young mom, she's just barely 18 years older than me, right? So she's pretty young at this point.
Yeah, very young. Yeah. She had you very young.
Yeah, she did. And so this was all surprising for us. And so she's going to the regular doctors. We live in a North Carolina in the US where we have a lot of universities around us with medical centers. So we're getting good quality care and review, but nobody can tell us what's going on. And she's sort of just disappearing in front of us: energy, diet, weight, all of this stuff. And so to give you an idea of how desperate we had become over a couple of years, somebody said, "Hey, we've got somebody we want to suggest to you, but you should know they're a quack." And we said, "Well, what's their phone number?" Right? You know, that didn't turn us off. And it turns out the person wasn't a quack. They were just involved with a pretty aggressive use of chelation therapy. We didn't even fully understand that, but we were so desperate, right? We would sort of take any approach to it. And it turns out that made all the difference in the world. The detoxification that came from that. And what I know now today, it was probably too aggressive, but it made all the difference in the world. And she sort of returned, turn the corner, so to speak. And a couple weeks later, right, she's feeling better. And ultimately we realized that mom had breast implants put in earlier, probably 5, 6, 8 years earlier. And one was having a problem with leaking, and just in general, her body was having a negative reaction to the silicone. So she was developing an autoimmune response, and so her body was kind of eating on itself, fighting itself. And
that's scary. That's scary for women who are, resorting to a lot of this aesthetic treatments and stuff. So, they don't realize the side effects and the dangers, potential dangers. And a lot of women get their breast implants done.
Yeah. And that's okay if the choice they make, but man, there's not a lot of discussion about the risk.
Yes. That's why I was saying that, I've got a lot of friends who've had it done, and I do say to them, like, when they wanted to get it, so just be careful. Just being that sort of maternal kind of person that I am, the dangers that come with that, because we just don't know. It's just not been around long enough,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, gosh, poor lady.
Yeah, and Dow Chemicals, who had made her implants, along with DuPont and some of their other work, we already know from past histories, if we think about Teflon, C8, other PFAS chemicals and things like that, it's not like they apply a lot of scrutiny to their work, right? So sort of one of these buyer beware situations. So the bottom line is she gets the implants removed, she detoxes, she starts to focus on her diet, and she turns around. And for myself, watching this, right there intimately seeing what's going on with my mom, I'm like, hey, you know what? I need to pay attention. Yeah. I need to think about these things. And while it wasn't an overnight thing for me, as I mentioned earlier, over the course of the next 10 years, I really began to develop an understanding about nutrition, the role I could play, what foods I was choosing, the role they were playing in my health, right? All of a sudden, I'm realizing all this fast food I'm eating or ultra processed food, that's not the answer, right? That's not really giving your body a good chance to be healthy and be successful. And I got involved in the supplement industry.
Yeah.
And so over the course of the past 30 years, this has become not just my career, but a passion, because I feel all too often people don't realize, even with just little simple tools, little simple ways of thinking about it, they can really take control of their health, so that not just, how you feel, but your risk of disease, and even becoming, as people get older, sort of prisoners of their own body. The story doesn't have to play out like the prior couple generations, right? Yeah. We can be smarter about these things. Absolutely. And so it's exciting and motivating. And that's essentially how I got here today.
Yeah, no, and it's usually sort of some kind of dark night of the soul that perpetuates us to our passion. I know that sounds
Yeah.
ludicrous, but you know, sometimes crisis can be a blessing. And I can attest to that definitely, because I have had a keen interest in the alternative holistic approach to healing for many years. And it started back in 2011. And I never considered myself unhealthy. I was born like a vegetarian, always eaten vegetarian diet. But I was very bad with my sugar. Now, because I've always stayed this frame. I've never really put on weight. I've never really lost so much. Well, I did lose quite a bit of weight at one stage, actually, but I've just stayed consistent. However, I did have a host of health issues growing up. I was premature born by 2 months. There was a lot of skin conditions and allergies, but growing up in an Asian household, they don't really pay attention to these specifics and, what might be causing a problem within your gut. It's because, we were told to drink milk before we go to bed. You've got to drink milk, and I don't realize the crap that's into milk, especially over the last sort of 20, 30 years. It's just crazy. So yeah, my journey kind of started where I started healing myself. And it just so happened I ended up working with some naturopaths, and this is where I started learning about supplementation. But even with supplements, it wasn't just buying any old supplements. You have to ensure you get good quality supplements. So my naturopath friend, she would teach me about heat treated like vitamins, the quality of vitamins that you choose, what you need. And it was just sort of like balancing all of this from within and this knowledge, etc. So I started learning about that. And this is where I learned about zeolite and colloidal silver, and understanding about it's not just about the food that we eat, but it's the toxins that come in it. It's the chemicals that is in practically everything that we eat, even organic food. And that's so unfortunate that the organic standards, I mean, I guess it's much better than the non-organic food, so they probably have far less, but there is still some chemicals in organic fruits and vegetables. So, given what is being thrown at us, there's so much to think about. It's overwhelming. It's really overwhelming, but it is so important that we begin now to start detoxing the heavy metal toxins from our body. And I've got amalgams, so I've got one big one which I'm getting removed very soon. It's huge, and I just swear it's responsible for everything. It's responsible for everything. The mercury toxins is the old one, and it's the support of certain supplements like this that will help me after I take it out. You have to be careful when you take out an amalgam.
Sure do.
And get
I'm assuming you probably are with a dental group that has experienced that, right? Because when they take them out and they're atomizing that hardened material through drills or whatever, if you're breathing in or it's going down your throat, right, you can definitely have a reaction. So I'm sure they'll help you in that regard.
They just put me to sleep. I just don't want to deal with that. I hope so.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, I've looked into that, and it is really, really important that you find somebody good. So I'm actually at the research stage because I have been scared about getting it done, but it's so important that we do at some stage, because it's just there affecting us every time we eat. So all the chemicals and everything on top of that, then you have these amalgams. So Touchstone has been going for then 30 years.
No, I've been in the supplement business for 30 years, but that journey was sort of eye-opening in that most supplements, and I'll just tell folks up front, I'm a fan of supplements. I see supplements playing a role of bridging the gap between, say, where you're at with your diet and where you want to be, just sort of recognizing in the go-go world we live in, right? You're not going to have the time or the availability for every meal to be perfect.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't mean you can't do things to make sure on a daily basis you're getting that adequate amount of micronutrients, antioxidants, things of this kind. And that's the role, I believe, for supplements. That being said, most supplements aren't worth the money that people spend. And I could make a strong argument that they may make matters worse in the way that they tax the liver, tax the kidneys, their impact on the digestive system, because essentially most supplements are made like fast food. Synthetic. In that they take whole foods, right? They fractionate out the things they want, the things they need. Maybe it's, let's say, ascorbic acid or something like that, that can be derivatives of, say, corn production or corn processing, right? GMO corn, whatever it happens to be. They take these fractionated ingredients and they create a supplement. But to be clear, let's take, for example, vitamin C. If you've got vitamin C in your home, right? If you spun the bottle around, you'd probably see on the label, at least in the US, it would say vitamin C, and then in parentheses next to it, probably say ascorbic acid. And people have become sort of so accustomed to seeing that, they think that that is actually vitamin C, but that's not true. Vitamin C is a compound made up of 8 parts, of which ascorbic acid is just one. Right. And in fact, the role it plays is it's the outer shell. So think of an egg shell. That's sort of what ascorbic acid did. The things in the middle, the egg part where the protein, fats, whatever that happens to be, that's missing, right? And so when you ingest ascorbic acid, it requires your body to utilize it, to mark it up, use enzymes to break it down, pull in from the collagen in your body, those other 7 compounds to make a whole molecule that you can use. So you can guess that's pretty inefficient. And so that's why people take these mega doses to even really get an output. And of course, that's taxing the kidney, livers, all kinds of processes. So that's indicative. And for people that want to read, we've got a blog with articles on this type of stuff. They can Google, they can check the work. It's all there.
Sharing all of this information.
Yeah. And so they can see that. And so it isn't the same as if you're getting, say, vitamin C from broccoli or a citrus fruit or amelo berries or acerola cherries, right? That is a whole compound in the bioavailability to your body. And the other micronutrients are completely different. And so when we think of supplements at Touchstone, we're looking at them from a whole food perspective. And so when you see our products, everything is coming from broccoli, kale, cabbage, whole mushrooms, whatever it happens to be, because it's that whole constituent that truly is bioavailable, sort of not this lab-made concept, which frankly, I can get on a soapbox about. I'm just not a fan. I think the public is spending billions of dollars and not getting what they deserve. And I fault the system.
Yeah, 100% true, because it's the marketing and it's the way it's being sold. So supplementation, so it's the way it's been engineered into society. Ascorbic acid, even myself, so many people, so many of my fitness fanatic friends have said, oh, you need to take ascorbic acid, but it's not explained in the way that you have just now, because it's usually stuff that's really singular, so it doesn't have all the other stuff. So this I can never pronounce it, the
acerola cherries.
That's the one. But they all come just on their own. They don't come collectively, and it's not the holistic approach. And I've heard this a lot about ascorbic acid. So we need to be educated on what vitamins we take and what quality of vitamin C we're taking. So because recently I was taking ascorbic acid on its own, and I started finding, and I can't remember the brand of it now, but I had to stop taking it because it was just giving me really bad stomach upsets. And ascorbic acid on its own, ascorbic acid on its own.
Yeah, that's right. And it will affect, so there's this compounding series of factors, right? So you're taking it that way, and eventually you probably got a little acidic in your gut, right? And so you're having some reactions in that regard. That's creating an environment where the good flora in your digestive tract, in your bowel, that's dying off, which then leaves room for the bad flora, the yeast and things like that to grow. Yeah. It's impacting in your gut, the lining where the second brain is, that produces some of those hormones that make you have a good mood or happy. All of these things are intertwined, right? And so there is, as far as I'm concerned, a necessity to think about it holistically right? And think about what you're actually delivering to your body. So actually, philosophically at the company, we think of it three ways, right? Get the bad stuff out. That can mean what you're putting in your body, but it also can mean cleaning up your diet, right? If there's much limiting access or limiting the consumption of as much ultra processed food as possible, or thinking about all the packaging, or throwing food you're about to consume in a plastic container in a microwave. So now all of a sudden you're getting all kinds of microplastics and things like that. I mean, there's just these dynamics here where we're not intentionally, but we are indeed poisoning ourselves in a way that's going to be disruptive to the hormones in our body. Some of these heavy metals and things we have exposure to, they're neurotoxic.
And the brain chemistry, yep.
Yep, all of these things began to add up. You know, the amalgams you're talking about getting out of your body. Well, we clearly know that mercury can erode a person's IQ, can affect their, what we call executive function, right? Decision-making skills, concentration over the course of the day, self-management, mood management.
It's this feeling. Just blame my mum. I'm just going to call my mum right now. It's just her fault. She said to me, you know, I was 7 years old when I did this filling, and it's just the reason why I forget things. It's just filling. It's mercury, but it's mercury that's in so many things. And people, you know, it's true. It's just the lack of knowledge. I know there's a lot more awareness now, but still, we just, without even thinking what we do, what you're saying, putting a plastic Tupperware box in the microwave, and all the poisonous, that stuff that comes out of that, you know, we just don't consciously realize. I scream at my mum all the time. You know, those plastic tubs you get from the takeaway shop. So she just put them in the microwave. I just want to throw that microwave in the bin. It's like crazy. Yeah. But yeah, we're always poisoning ourselves some way or another without even realizing.
Well, here's something I see all the time. Take a plastic water bottle, right? People will leave it in their car. Car gets hot, gets cold. I mean, there's just all these things we're not thinking about. And I don't want to overwhelm people, right? I'm conscious of the fact that you can try to offload too much on people and they're like, oh my God, I can't manage it. Who cares? I'll just do the best I can, right? You can do subtle things every day, thinking about the quality of the air you're breathing in your home, right? Can you afford to get a filter? Cleaning the house out as much as possible. Here's something that a lot of folks don't think about, but let's say you have a central heating and air conditioning system in your home, which is fairly common, and you've got a filter that's intaking the air from your house and filtering it before it goes through the air handler, right? And if you've ever had to change the filter, you let it go too long, it's pretty dirty, right? You don't want to change it. What people don't think too much about is that pulls that air from inside your home, filters it before it goes through the air handling system to protect it. That's the same air that you're breathing, but guess what? You can't pull your lungs out, rinse them off, clean them out, or change the filter. Yeah. Your body, your liver, your kidneys, your lung have to manage that debris and those toxins. So being conscious of the quality of the air I'm breathing, conscious of the water, food packaging, the kinds of food, even if you just reduce these exposures 10%, right? It can have a compounding effect. So cleaning up what's going in and then aiding the body in detox, right? Green leafy vegetables, things that kind, and then zeolite, right? That's that detox, put the good stuff in, balance with things like CBD oil. We can do good. We can do better.
I mean, it would be good if we could take our lungs out and wash them, wouldn't it?
It would be really important.
A little button here, like a zip, you know, say, here you go. Just it needs a little bit of a, you know, MOT. Let's just take our lungs and our kidneys and everything out so we can just give it a good scrub. But unfortunately, we can't. So we have to, you know, use things that will aid and facilitate this. And let's talk about the zeolite, you know, that detoxifying with zeolite and cleansing our body. So how long has this product been out with Touchstone now?
So we launched Touchstone in 2012, but I've been working sort of closely, I mean, kind of daily as my principal business with Zeolight since 2005. But the Zeolite, they have history that goes back hundreds of years, right? We can look at clay eating societies going all the way back to China. And I mean, that probably sounds strange to people, but back in those days, dysentery was one of these things that if you got it, if your family got it, it was almost a destiny of death, right? You really couldn't break this chain because of the way it affected you and dehydrated the body. And so these clay eating societies developed where people would move by rivers to try to have access to water because not knowing why, but they're just thirsty and dehydrated. Well, turns out as they ate clay, and I don't know who makes this first decision to bite into the clay. The clay has some zeolite in it. They don't know that, but it has a quality where it disrupted that viral replication of what was creating the dysentery. And all of a sudden people get better, right? And so just as folklore goes, right, there's this sort of idea, and you probably still today, you've probably come into contact with people that use bentonite clay.
Bentonite clay, yeah, they use it a lot in the detoxes. So when I do my cleanse, by the way, this is the 7th day. This is the last juice that I'm having of my 7-day detox of drinking 6 juices a day. And I cannot wait to eat an avocado tomorrow. You know,
congratulations, though.
And what I used to do with these, so I try to do these cleanses regularly with the bentonite clay. I used to do that before, so I do like quarterly detox, you know, just give myself body a bit of an MOT. You know, I do have a little bit of naughtiness. I haven't let that go completely, and I kind of went off the rails recently. You know, it's blame COVID, it's not my fault, you know, just sitting here doing all these lovely endless Zoom meetings, and then, you know, just eating my vegan chocolates here and there, and, you know, all these chips and stuff. I mean, it happens. And then I started eating gluten, and gluten's the worst thing that I can eat. It's just started getting my skin so bad. So these juice detox that I do, my skin in these 7 days, definitely, you've got great skin, and that's the first thing I wanted to say to you, Eddie.
Thank you.
So what's your secret? Is it the zeolite? You know, is it that? But it's like
the zeolite is definitely playing a role.
It's just shining, and I'm thinking, gosh, I need to do another 7 days of this detox. But yes, I'm on the last day. But bentonite clay, yeah, sorry to interrupt you there, is definitely something that I used to use, and we used to sell a lot of that in the place that I worked, the healing place that I worked, where I learned everything about everything.
Yeah. Well, you know, bentonite clay has played a role, particularly in the past, along with, say, charcoal.
Yes, activated charcoal, right?
Yeah. The problem with both of them is, and it's almost like prescription IV chelation therapies, they're not discerning. They're pulling out of the body good minerals as well as bad minerals and other toxins. So one of the reasons I was initially attracted to zeolites was in learning about them and their history. They're very specific and they're very targeted. And zeolites, for those that don't know them, it's a natural mineral. Now, there are plenty of synthetics out there. We do not work with synthetics. And I just want to make that clear to the audience if they're curious. Really the synthetics that are out there, that is not where the safety research has been done. So whether we're talking about the FDA's assignment of GRAS status, generally recognized as safe, or the European Union's equivalency, or throughout Asia, all of that work has been done on naturally mined clinoptilolite. And so as a company, you know, we're very leery of synthetics. They also have a problem with what would be referred to as the strength of their bond. They can break down in the gut because of their bonding ratios. And so we, just to be clear to everybody, we work only with the naturally mined products. Our products are mined in a very pristine environment. They actually pass in a raw state Prop 65 compliance in California. So that's one thing I would like to make clear. But they have a natural negative charge in their native state, right? And that charge is then attracted to, based upon like opposites of attract, to say cadmium, lead, mercury, things of this kind. And so a person can think of it this way: if you've ever played with magnets and you've got a north end of a magnet and the south end of a magnet, they get close to one another, they'll kind of snap together.
Yeah.
That's zeolite against these heavy metals, volatile organics, PFASs, and other things that you don't want in your body. And so, that's right. That's right. And once it's bound, and this is really important from a safety standpoint, our body has no receptor sites from zeolite. So as you're consuming it, and it works based upon proximity. So people may say, or they may hear somebody say that zeolites are water soluble. Just so you know, that isn't true. And that's impossible. Zeolites are a hardened mineral. You can suspend them in water, which is what we do, but the way they work in the body is in proximity. So you want them in your system circulating so that it comes in contact with these pollutants. It's attracted to it, it binds. Assuming normal bowel function, you're probably talking out of your body in about a 4 to 6 hour period of time, which from a detox standpoint is what you want. Unlike, say, an herbal product, which disrupts or teases out things you don't want in your body that then are released into the system to react. That's where people get acne or other things during detoxes. None of that is happening here.
It's
So
like
for
a
me,
Hersheimer's reaction when you're doing detoxes, right? And then there's all these kind of other things that happen where you just feel faint and you get spots, acne, stomach cramps,
even aching muscles
headaches.
can affect your mood, right? And so I'm conscious that if a consumer's experience isn't positive along the way, they generally don't stick with stuff. And I know that, like, for myself, I'm probably not the audience, right? I'm involved with so much of this stuff. I can probably drink anything, right? But most people won't do this, right? And so their experience needs to be easy and gentle. And that's what the zeolite does, working natively. So what we do is we take the naturally mined source zeolite, and then we have a proprietary process where we prep the cage. And so here's a good way to think about that. If you were cleaning the counter in your kitchen and you were using a sponge, using a dirty sponge or an unprepped sponge probably doesn't do as well, right? It just moves the debris on the counter. We prep our cages so that they're better, more effective in the body. And then we size them so that, one, we have a product for the gut. Two, we have one for the cell system. It's actually nano-sized, so it will get into the
cleanse, right? As well.
Yeah, that's right. And so these three factors, people will be surprised when they get it. If they get a bottle, it's clear, it's odorless, it's tasteless, and they're like, what's actually going on here? But it's just amazing inside the body.
Yeah, that's what I found when I first started taking it, because it literally tastes of nothing. You're just putting 4 sprays into your tongue, onto your tongue. I started doing it under my tongue, but then it was just on my tongue. It doesn't really make a difference. And my mum started taking it for a week, and she's like, "Alpais, I think I'm detoxing a lot more. Is this dangerous?" And I'm like, "Mum, no, it's good for you. You need it the most." She can't hear me, but she just loves her junk food, and she's spicy foods and things like that. And she's got a few amalgams as well. I mean, I was just hoping I'll spray it and my filling would fall out, but that didn't happen. I was wishful thinking. It didn't. No, there was a bit of hope there for me. I was just like spraying, and then I thought it's just the tooth might fall out. But yeah, I need to get that removed. And I think like there's no taste, just like you're spraying water into your mouth.
Yeah, and so the good part about that is, and you'll have some people that will spray it in their mouth and they'll actually go to swallow and realize there's nothing there. It absorbs principally mucously, right? So that means it's fast acting into the bloodstream. It's going to get into the cells at a nano-sized particle. And for people that want to read all the details, they can go to our website. We have all the X-ray diffraction, all those bits of information. But getting into the cell, traveling through the aquaprinas as they do, that really means that cleanse is taking place at the very root of your fundamental biochemistry, right? Those 70 to 100 million, trillion cells, that you have in your body, right? That's what we're applying here. And at that size, the volume of material going into the body. So here's something to think about. By nano-sizing something, you create, now this is going to be counterintuitive for most people, but I love this part. I'm fascinated by it. The smaller it is, the larger the surface area for attracting to and binding with toxins. Wow. So let's take, for example, let's say you got a soccer ball, right? That's that physical size of a soccer ball. And if you paint it up, that's a pretty large surface area. You could probably roll it around with paint on it and cover your desk. But if you cut the soccer ball open and you pour inside, say, small marbles or grains of sand, just think about how much more you can get into the same space. And spherically, it's an exponential increase in surface area. So here, the smaller we go with this to a point, the better, because the size of the cages remains static. And those cages, you want more cages exposed, right? So they can be attracted at angstrom size, right, to those heavy metals or even the volatile organics. So it's got a number of mechanisms of action. The cage, it also has a zeta implication, which means that the charge leaps to the surface. So now not just the cages, but the surface. And so when I say that, here's how people can think about that. If I have my magnet, go back to my magnet, and I've got a magnet on the bottom side of a sheet of paper, it still has pull to the top of the sheet of paper, right? That's a sort of a theoretical zeta effect. And so the zeolite's quite remarkable. I mean, I'll just be right up front.
Yeah, no, and I'm just trying to, because I was just looking at all the metals. So obviously, you know, it helps to alkalize the body as well to, you know, maintain the pH balance, that's for sure. And it's so important not to have an acidic environment because it leads to all sorts of inflammation in the body, and that toxic environment then can lead to all sorts of diseases and health issues in the future. So alkalizing the body is very important. I take a lot of chlorophyll for that as well. So this is brilliant that it does that. But all the metals that it takes out of your body, and we don't even realize what we're ingesting. So let's talk about like that for a second, because I don't even think people realize the extent of how much crap we consume, right?
Well, look, just think about this for a second. You know, you've got 100,000+ chemicals that are generally approved by developed governments, an untold increased number from undeveloped governments that just don't have the resources to kind of manage those issues, of which 99.999% have never been involved with human clinical trials. Right. So let's go back. I mentioned Teflon earlier. You know, back in the 1940s, DuPont Corporation pioneered Teflon, right? This non-stick, we think of it as non-stick for cookware, but there's greater places where it's involved in our life, right? And it uses something called a PFAS or C8 that we know can impact creating birth defect issues, high cholesterol, hypertension, brain disorders. All these things have been proven, yet if you check the blood of any number of the 7 billion people on this planet, no matter how remote the area they live, they're going to have C8 in their system, because once it's in the groundwater, it's then in the air, it's then in the rain, it's all over the globe. And so these chemicals, even before tested on humans, understanding it, make their way into every consumer product we know of. If you fly on an airplane, right, you're exposed to flame retardant materials that has the same dynamic, same series of chemicals, the fluorines in them. Non-stick cookware, we think of that as just being one application of that. But how about this? Every time you take a prescription medicine, most likely the shoots that the raw powdered material that ultimately made its way into a capsule or is pressed into a tablet, those factories have Teflon coating those shoots so that that material slides through more easily, just like they might use magnesium stearate or other things to keep them from clumping. And so it's just this constant exposure. And by no means am I trying to deny the things I enjoy about a modern life, right? Whether it's my phone or whatever it happens to be. It's just important to recognize, man, we got to do something to balance it out.
It's very important. And even with medication, they guise it as it being sort of acid resistant, some of the coating on these tablets, so that it's, you know, acid resistant, so it gets to the gut, the second brain, a lot quicker, and then it's just going to swim its way and not just die before it gets into your gut, you know. And then I'm like, but this stuff is full of crap. You know, we have to be aware, because we're missold a lot of things, especially in the health industry, in the supplement industry. We're not educated and we don't know. So these things that we think with good intention that, yes, we're going to take our health into our hands and we're really going to start, you know, looking after ourselves, and we're going to start choosing supplements, choosing the correct supplements, Eddie, is so important. So this is just a brilliant point. Like, this is the same thing the naturopath said to me about the capsules and how they're coated. So when you're cooking in that kind of those pots and pans, it's just they get you everywhere. They're like literally zapping you in everything that you're doing, and you're just thinking you're living this great modern life, but really you're being suppressed. And what does that do? You know, with this, the C8 you mentioned in the chemicals, it's ultimately calcifying your pineal gland and making you removed from yourself, the self, right? So you are kind of in a moronic state and a duped down, desensitized state, rather than your exuberant, happy, ecstatic state that you should be, because you're constantly just, you're numbed, you're completely numb. And it's these chemicals that are doing it to us. It's not just the fluoride. You know, we think that they've just fluoridated us in everything, like with the water and this. But yes, we're aware now, we're a bit more awake. No, there's just so many things that I didn't even realize. So it's just so important to know. And so thank you for bringing that up, because that's so important, how we cook our food and what pans we cook them in.
Yeah. Well, so something you just said there that is really important and intuitive on your part for bringing this up that I really try to get people to think about. And I realize that I've got an advantage because every day this is my business. But over time, particularly if you look at human beings, say, getting into their early 30s, we do become desensitized. And in some ways, we forget how we felt before. You know, we forget a little bit about the energy of youth and the exuberance of youth. And we maybe say to ourselves, well, I'm 10 years older, I'm 15 years older, right? So it's okay if I lost something. That erosion or callousness to how you used to be in part becomes there because of the exposure to toxins, bad food, bad habits, not taking care of yourself, and so you become a little bit numb, just like you described. And the challenge is that for most human beings, they can endure these kinds of things, not being as kind to their body as they should until they get into their 50s. But if you look at mortality rates around the developed part of the world, most death or the start of that cycle occurs between the age of 50 and 64. And that's because it catches up to us, right? Yeah. Those years and years and years of not getting your 5 to 7 servings of fresh fruits and vegetables, proper amounts of antioxidants, which help to fight the free radical, which is then damaging your DNA on a daily basis, accelerating aging, vulnerability to cardiovascular disease and cancer. It catches up to us, right? And so it's, you know, I'm not trying to be alarmist for people, but I don't care where you're at in the cycle, right? Young, middle-aged, older, whatever happens to be, paying attention to these issues, even just over the course of 90 days, can help restore some of that energy you're looking for. You start using something like Pure Body Extra and those zeolites, you'll notice pretty quickly your ability to sort of maintain focus over the course of the day will improve because you're just cleaning up the system, right? Anytime you sort of help and aid the body to unburden the system, performance improves. Just like if you maintain your car properly, right? It runs better as it gets older.
Yeah, I don't really do that either, but you know, in real life, you know, I've got 2 sort of flat tires the other day, like, well, low tires, low pressured tires, but you know, I'm working on that. Unfortunately, you know, I'm in my 20s now, so you know, I've got a long way to go, but you know, just preparing and being, you know, well knowledgeable on all this stuff, you know, I wish. But yeah, no, it is really important to, you know, look deeper into all of this and take care of yourself in a way that's not going to affect you in the future. Because yeah, I do feel that. I do feel that as I was approaching my 30s, you know, I was just so clueless about health, even approaching my 30s, you know. And the heavy metal toxins is something that's always stood out to me. From what my naturopath said. So the zeolite is just something that I did want to drink the whole bottle. I thought I just wanted, because I'm a bit impatient, you know, I just thought just drink the whole thing all at once. But you mentioned clear thinking. That's something that's really important, Eddie, because memory and clarity of thought, we're just consuming so much now with looking at our screens all the time, this lethargy, especially now this year, we're all just zooming, which is bunch of buzzing zoomers right now. And it's important to move and get that movement and that energy sort of up and all, you know, in high vibration. But memory is something that's just going to lose my train of thought as I was talking about that. Ironic, isn't it? Yes. Memory is something that's really important because a lot of people I speak to lose their train of thought a lot, and this is just I thought, yeah, it's a cluttered mind, a lot of monkey chatter, but I think it's a lot to do with all the chemicals that, you know, we're ingesting all the time. Just suppresses us and desensitizes us, so we have that numb down state, you know, all the time. So this is supposed to be really good for that as well.
Yeah, that's right. And so we know a lot about this type of subject matter, and let's just go back to 100 plus years ago or longer, where people, they didn't necessarily know all the time why things they were doing may have an impact on one part of the culture over the other. But let's take simple breathing exercises or something like yoga, which has survived, you know, decade after decade after decade. And when I say it that way, meaning it wasn't a fashionable thing, right? It was a habit that humans realized made an impact, right? yoga, or the types of exercises that create methodical, thoughtful breathing, which is one way that your body detoxifies, we know those individuals in research are less likely to suffer from things like Alzheimer's disease or dementia or other things like that, in part because those breathing exercises not only supportive of the cardiovascular system, but aids the body in detoxification. And we know heavy metals, let's take lead, for example. We all know, we read the stories in the US, we had the thing a couple of years ago in Flint, Michigan. We know that lead literally makes you dumber, both in children and adults, very clearly in IQ testing. Your ability to manage decision making, your ability to process mathematics or the English language or reading, all these things are eroded in these exposures. And we know that cadmium really would function, mercury really would cause a function of being exactly the same way. And so there's no mystery here that anything we can do, eating cleaner food, breathing better air, drinking water that's filtered right, not drinking sodas, all these things, if we can stop the input, and then with our diet, as much clean, good fruits and vegetables, green leafy vegetables, using something like a zeolite, all those things aid to it, right? And so even if it's nothing but just an improved performance for you of, say, 10% or 15% or 20%, because how you support your body, it's noticeable. And let me tell you, as you get older, it becomes more and more important, almost like a compounding effect, right? I appreciate the kind comments about my skin, but let me tell you, you got to stay a bit vigilant as you get older, right? My forehead's bigger than it used to be because of the things that happen in the body. And so it's good to stay on top of these things.
Well, of course, because we're exposed to so much, and we've got to do our bit now. We've got to work hard on all of these things and keep on top of it, for sure. So I've read loads and loads of reviews, and they've all been really, really bad. Just joking. They've been really, really amazing. And actually, the one that stood out the most, and I did read all of them on the internet, and they were just brilliant. But the one that stuck out to me was from my friend. And I said to you just before we started this conversation that it's just ironic that when I said to her that I was about to do this show with you, she goes, "Oh, well, I use that. It's really good."
That's good to hear.
And she goes, "Oh, I've been taking it for like 3-4 months now, and I feel really, really good, and all sorts of stuff." So what, in your experience, since you've got hundreds and thousands of great reviews here, but in your experience, what is the main thing that people say about you after using Zeolite, and how long do they feel a difference, and those sort of common questions that people would be asking?
Yeah, so there's two types of comments we get. One, for people that have acute challenges, right? They've got skin problems, they've got respiratory issues. We've even got people that have liver function issues and things like that, right? Their response is, sometimes it's 10 days, sometimes it's 30, 60, 90 days, right? They're going to come back and comment to us about getting some relief, right? All of a sudden, I'm enjoying some skin clarity. How in the heck is this cleaning things up? And I just remind them, hey, this is just supporting the body's detox, right? It's not curing, fixing, or mitigating. But so we get these acute responses that, particularly not that I'm not a fan of adults, but man, when you hear a parent share with us how this has happened with a child, right, with chronic skin issues or things like that, that just makes you feel good about getting up every day and the work you do. And then there's the other side, which is the largest audience, where they don't come to us and say they've got an acute problem. It's just more of the lethargy of life, getting older, whatever it happens to be. For a lot of those folks, they come back to us, and this can be 7 to 10 days later with, you know what, I don't know if it's psychological, but I'm feeling more energy.
Yeah.
They almost don't want to trust it, which I completely understand how that is. I'm a skeptical adult as well, but they're starting to feel like they've got a little more energy. Sometimes it's, you know what, my nails seem to be growing a little faster, a little thicker, a little stronger. Maybe it's something impacting my hair. All of a sudden I feel like I'm just
feeling it with my hair. Yeah, I felt like a bit of growth with my hair.
Now I'll say this to the audience as a what do you call it? Just a sort of a warning. So I'm not trying to say this is a cure or anything like that.
No.
We get some great comments where people are spraying it on their hairline, with some improvement in the thickness and the health of their hair.
Wow.
women particularly don't think a lot about those products, whether it's color, bleaches, whatever it is, and how that can, you know, get into the scalp and affect the function. So that's a pretty fun thing to bring, right? Yeah. Vanity is important to us, right? So anything like that matters.
Gray hairs.
Yeah.
It's okay for guys, but you know, I think, I mean, even though the whole gray look on the silver colored look for ladies is in fashion at the moment, I'm not sure if I sport like, you know, silver hair, which is, I think the dark looks better.
We're definitely treated with a different standard, and it's unfair. It's unfair how we can have this. I've
just got this little patch that just grows here like Cruella de Vil. It's just like, just here. So really, why? And it's just this rainbow just here, just like here at the rim. It's like these little rainbow sort of white patches here. Anyway, just like revealing my age here. But yeah, no, it's true. The stuff that we use, all the chemicals, even in our products for women especially. And men now are getting their sort of hair dyed all the time as well. In the vanity in men has really increased over the years. But for women, we just take it for granted that, you know, all these things that we use, the chemicals, because when our pores open, they're going into our body.
Oh, sure. Well, take the shower, for example. You start heating water, right? You're taking a warm shower. If you're not using a shower filter, that chlorine in, say, a city system, you know, that absorption rate through your scalp is incredibly high. So we just don't think about these little simple places where that's having an erodive effect on our health. And so for the general public that didn't come to us with an acute issue, that energy level improvement, and all of a sudden seeing a manifestation in their skin, their hair, their nails. Somewhat, I have people say all the time, how much caffeine is in the product? There's no caffeine. There's no caffeine at all. It's two things. It's this natural zeolite and highly, highly, highly cleansed water, but their energy levels are improving.
Yeah.
So they think there must be a stimulant of some kind. It's just getting the chemicals out of the body so your natural energy level returns, right? That's what this is all about. And there's this compounding effect where most people probably would sleep better.
Yeah.
Right? Once they do this cleanup, now you're more rested, you've got more energy. And so it's this positive cycle. You know, we see the bad cycles of bad food, like the COVID-15 and all these descriptions where people have been locked inside and they're eating the bad food and things spiral down. Well, you can get the spiral to go the other way.
Yeah, you can do. Definitely. And you're increased in energy. I mean, it's I feel like Tigger right now after one spray. Bouncing around. But
I like that.
Yeah, well, you know, it's just like my mum's like, maybe you shouldn't take it because you're just already like really excitable anyway all the time. I think, you know, she's taking the bottle away from me. She's like, what is this doing to you? Because you're even more hyper and chirpier. But I have a question for you. After taking this for a while, does it make the feeling of your like aware of the metals in your body much more? So for example, the feeling that I have, I can feel it a lot more. And it's like literally saying, I want to come out. Does that happen? Have you heard about that? It's like I can actually feel, it's because you're saying it's like a magnet. If we put it like metaphorically, you know, it's just this magnet, these drops that's like a magnet. And I'm feeling the metal taste of my filling a lot more than I did before.
I don't think that's just psychological. I think there's some physical properties there. But let me say one thing to folks. The zeolite is inert, meaning if you put it in your mouth, it isn't going to try to root around, dislodge, or break apart that amalgam, right? No, what it's going to affect as you're chewing and the off-gassing from that, that then becomes available mercury, that's the role that it can play. But there's no question that the more you reduce the body burden, the more sensitive in a good way the body becomes. I've had people tell me that they're tasting things in a more pronounced fashion, whether that's food or wine or whatever that happens to be. And so there's
taste buds.
That's right. And if if you've spent your life not thinking about these things, no judgment, and you've had a lot of these ultra processed foods that are over salted, over fatted, over sugar, those things dull down your senses, right? So you start to remove some of these chemicals, some of these things from your diet, you can actually taste things that are on the more subtle range that you missed before. Yeah. And so that's not an uncommon experience.
Opens up your taste buds, that's for sure. I mean, and especially now for me, sense of smell after sort of 7 days of detoxing.
Oh, sure.
And the taste buds, you know, I'm always sipping away because I just, like, it's been 7 days, but I'm like now I'm ready to eat again. You know, I was going to do a water fast tomorrow just for 24 hours. And I'm like, no, I'm not sure if I can. But I've been using this the whole day, 4 times a day throughout the week. And I've had it for the last 2 weeks. So, and I'm really feeling, you know, I'm feeling something. And, you know, collectively, you can't just think that, right, I'm going to take Zeolite, I'm just going to have 5 bottles and I'm just going to do it on its own. You know, everything that we discussed today is a holistic approach. We're looking at our diet, we're looking at that, but given even when we are eating really healthy, and this is for people like myself who generally eats healthy, and I have like the 80-20% rule, you know, 20% sometimes I just turn into a psychopath, you know, with my food, and I'm like, I'll just eat anything I want. But most of the time I am healthy. And so this acts as an aid for you, you know, just to help get rid of the crap, and with those aches and pains. Because here in the UK, especially during winter, I noticed it, and I was really regretting those, like, you know, vegan cakes and things that I was eating over Christmas and before, because I just can feel the lethargy that was, you know, within my system, and the crap that I was eating essentially. And
the sugar more than anything,
it's
right?
the sugar, yeah. You know, I mean, I used to take selenium tablets before to sort of stop the cravings for sugar, and I did all of that because, you know, coffee and sugar were the two sort of, they're the worst drugs in modern day society now. Sugar and the hidden sugars, because not the obvious sugars. We don't even realize how much sugar is hidden in our, like, cereal, all masked and duped under the guise of being healthy food. We must always look at the like the ingredients of what we're eating. And this is where they've just duped us, even with the healthy food or the veganism. It's just, this still not healthy. You're still not eating healthy food if you're eating highly processed vegan food. It's just all nonsense. Right. So anything processed and not fresh, you know, you are going to be ingesting a whole load of nonsense in your body and bad things, and that's going to interfere with, you know, your brain chemistry and all sorts, and just turn you into a raving lunatic.
You know, I tell people all the time, if you've got a diet where almost everything you eat is processed just because of the demands on your life, maybe you've got a house full of kids and work and demanding spouse, whatever these things are that just won't allow you to focus. If you just take the time to have a juice-like drink, you know, 1 meal a day, even these subtle things can have this enormous collective impact, because all of a sudden you give your body just some tools, right, to work through the challenges of the modern life, even the psychological challenges. People don't think about how much the health of your gut impacts your level of stress and how you respond to things and moods. So, I mean, I'm a big advocate of just nearly begging people to just give themselves a little something every day, right? It makes a difference.
Your gut is your second brain. It's so important. And I remember saying this to some friends of mine. They thought I was bonkers. They're saying, how can you say your stomach is your brain? I said, not your stomach, your gut. Your gut is, you know, we talk about gut feeling. We have to always look at everything holistically, mind, body, and soul. Spiritually, we have to look at ourselves, mentally, with our physical body, and we've got to work at it all together collectively. You've got to, can't just do one thing and think, that's it, great, I'm just going to take this 1 bottle of Zeolite and I'm just going to be Superman or Supergirl. You have to, and then while you're still eating 10 bars of chocolate or McDonald's at the same time, it's just not really going to work, you know, when you approach your health like that. But yes, so now to the exciting stuff. So I believe you have a special gift for me, Eddie. The birdie told me.
Yeah, well.
Tell me, I'm excited to hear this. They gave me the envelope, and they said I couldn't open it until I spoke to you.
Well, we're excited to do this, and we recognize the work you're putting in and the way you're trying to connect with people and the sincerity of it, and we appreciate that. And so what we want to do is work with you on an offer to your audience. And so here's what we're going to do. From the day this opens, and I can't remember if that's tomorrow or the next day, and so you can make some clarity to that on when you put this information out there. We're going to make our Pure Body Extra Strength, right? This is a bottle that all over the globe sells for $79.95 USD. And we sell tens of thousands of bottles of this on a monthly basis. We're going to make this available to your audience for $5. If they're in the UK or the US, it's going to ship for free. In most places, it will be a low cost shipping. There may be some shipping costs, but be very low because we know people are going to like it. And when they go to the offer, $79.95 is the retail. The next best price is $63.83. That's the everyday price. So if you want the $5 offer, you're going to see there's sort of two windows you can choose from. You can just get the no obligation $79.95, no problem. Everything we have is sold. 30-day unconditional guarantee. We got thousands of 5-star reviews. We're a good, reputable company, AAA rated, Better Business Bureau, all those kinds of things. But if you want the $5 offer, it's on a subscription. And so that means you'll get the best price we offer on that next order of $63.83. So the first one's $5, then $63.83. If in between you get your bottle, you don't like it, whatever, you don't think it works, you just email us, call us, chat online, whatever you want to do to cancel your subscription. There's no questions asked. There's no reason demanded. Everything we have is unconditionally, empty bottle guarantee. But what we're confident is people are going to enjoy the product and they're going to want to tell a friend.
That's a brilliant offer.
Yeah.
It's literally, and I believe that you're based everywhere in the world, most places in the world. You've got presence everywhere in the States, Australia.
60 some countries.
Wow, 60. Okay.
Yeah, 60 some countries. And so we have a warehouse in the UK. And we reach all over Europe from there. We reach all over Asia. So we've got a pretty broad reach. Look, it doesn't matter really where you live in the world. These issues you and I are describing in a different language, it may sound different, but it's all the same. We're really all the same. We're all facing this modern diet. We're all facing all these demands and processed foods and chemicals. And so we have just found that there's no sort of cultural limitations here on what the interest is and what we've got. And so we're excited to do this. We have a goal of reaching 1 million families with our message of good health and education. And so the chance to do that with you, that's a real privilege. And so we're excited.
No, thank you. I'm so grateful for the person who introduced me to this. And like I said earlier on, Eddie, that it's so nice when you're just sort of casually having a conversation with somebody and they know about it and they're giving you the reviews. And I actually know about Zeolite and the benefits from such a long time ago. And just using the product myself over the last few weeks has just been great. I mean, I'm just much more chirpier than I am usual, staying at home. And I do have that energy. But what a fantastic, you can't really go wrong with that, because you're almost saying that, hang on a minute, it's effectively free, and you ship most places in the world. I know that you're looking to ship to some other countries such as India and South Africa, because you don't ship there at the moment, do you? And I do have a few people listeners from there, but you're working on that, and there is a way that it could potentially be shipped there, I think.
Yeah, we're working on, we call it a shipping lane, but we're working on a new and improved lane for both India, South Africa, and Korea. And we're pretty optimistic we can have these things online in the next 30 days. No question, just the challenges with COVID have sort of impacted how fast paperwork moves and things of this kind. But we're excited because those are places where people call us every day. Yeah. How do I get it? How do I get it?
I know. So that's what one of my friends asked me the first thing. She said that, do they ship to India and South Africa? And I said, it's work in progress. It's going to happen. But I do understand with these countries, all the taxes and levies, and, sometimes it makes products a lot more, triple the price. So this is the issue that we have, which is such a shame, because there's so many good products that, even with the CBD oil that you have, Kenzo loves the CBD oil. He goes to sleep now. He's not as anxious. So he's been on that for the week. So you do some great products. Yeah, the CBD oil, which I'll have all the links on my description box below, guys, with this offer. And then the green juice as well. So there's just so many lovely things that you're doing. But I think essentially we're focusing on this Zeolite and the promotion that, you kindly offered for my viewers. I really appreciate that. I definitely think it's a no-brainer, because you're trying it and then they'll obviously love it, and then the next bottle is a bit cheaper. So definitely. Oh, well, I've really enjoyed this, Eddie. It's been great. And I'm sure everyone else has enjoyed this. And like I said, everyone, the links will be in the description box below. So make sure you take advantage of it, because it's only going to be on for a short while. So Eddie, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to working with you. Thank you so, so much.
Yeah. See you soon. Bye-bye now.